My name is Emerson Wynn, and the moment that shattered my life didn't come with a scream or a crash. It came with a kiss on the forehead at 4:17 a.m. Ethan, my husband of nearly 9 years, leaned down in the quiet dark, whispering, "Love you," like he always did before a work trip. Logistics conference in Bangor, Maine. Routine. I murmured something back, pretending to be half asleep, then listened to his footsteps fade down the hall and the soft click of the front door. Through the bedroom window, I watched the taillights of his car disappear into the fog. I should have gone back to sleep. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster like they held answers. That morning, I made banana pancakes shaped like stars, my daughter's favorite. Avery, 6 years old and sharper than most adults I know, climbed onto the kitchen stool without a word. I slid the plate in front of her. "Daddy left early," I said. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes flicked to the far end of the counter. "He forgot his watch." I turned, following her gaze. There it was, Ethan's Omega, the one he never left without, the one he once made us drive 40 miles back home for during a beach trip. My stomach dropped. I picked it up slowly, thumb tracing the glass. It was cool, untouched. Later, as Avery pulled on her backpack, she paused at the door and looked up at me with a gravity that didn't belong to a child. "Mommy?" she said, her voice barely more than breath. "We have to leave, not later, now." I blinked. "Why?" Her hand tightened on my sleeve. "Because Daddy told me you'd understand, before it's too late." And in that moment, I did. The strange thing was, Avery didn't say it like a warning. She said it like a fact, like it had already happened, whatever too late meant. I knelt in front of her, brushing her hair behind her ears. "Sweetheart, did Daddy really tell you that? When?" Her eyes darted sideways. "At school. He called from a number I didn't know. He said we'd have to go, that the house wouldn't be safe." She didn't look scared, just certain, like this was just another thing she'd accepted without needing all the pieces. I, on the other hand, felt the floor shift beneath me. By 8:15 a.m., I had dropped Avery off at school, kissed her forehead like nothing was wrong, and parked 2 blocks away from the house with my hands clamped around the steering wheel. I stared at that damn watch on the passenger seat. Ethan never forgot it, ever. It wasn't a fashion statement. It was a habit, a ritual, one of those tiny anchors that keeps your life in place. And he'd left it behind. Back home, I walked straight to his office. Ethan's laptop sat closed on the desk, charger still plugged in. He'd taken his work-issued tablet and phone, but this one, his personal MacBook, was here. I opened it, got the password prompt, tried our anniversary, nothing. Avery's birthday, nope. Then I typed in Tweet, Monroe 1949. His mother's maiden name and birth year. Click. I was in. Most folders were typical. Bills, vacation photos, tax PDFs. But one sat buried inside a bland folder named YNSQ, 4 reports. It was titled simply, Orion K3. Inside, invoices, shipment logs, customs declarations, none addressed to him, companies I'd never heard of, destinations all overseas. I knew just enough legal language to recognize what I was seeing. Someone was moving large quantities of product through ports using shell fronts. The shipping manifests referenced everything from commercial electronics to vintage art. It didn't make sense, not yet. But I knew this much. Ethan's job wasn't just about logistics. I clicked out of the folder and pulled up our home security app. He'd insisted on installing cameras last fall, after a rash of break-ins in the neighborhood. I never questioned it. Why would I? The feed was smooth. Front porch, driveway, living room. But when I clicked into the backyard, I saw it immediately. A 30-minute gap around 12:30 p.m. yesterday. No feed, just static. He deleted it, and he didn't know I had access. My hand shook as I closed the laptop. I stood in the middle of our perfect white and stainless kitchen and looked around at the curated calm. Open floor plan, scent of citrus cleaner, a bowl of fresh lemons on the counter like we were in a catalog. Nothing about this house looked dangerous, but something was. and my daughter had sensed it before I had. I grabbed my keys, shoved the watch and laptop into my tote, and headed for the school. It was 2:14 p.m. when I signed Avery out early. The secretary barely looked up from her monitor. Avery's face lit up when she saw me. "Are we leaving now?" she whispered, like it was a secret plan. I nodded. "We are." And just like that, the plan I didn't have became the only option left. We left town with nothing more than instinct and a half-packed overnight bag. Avery sat in the back seat clutching her stuffed llama, legs swinging as she looked out the window. She didn't ask where we were going. She didn't need to. The trust between us had always been unspoken and complete. The kind of bond forged through bedtime stories, emergency room visits, and all the small, invisible things that make a child know who's safe. I told Ethan we were visiting my sister Tess in New Hampshire, a woman I hadn't spoken to in nearly 2 years. I left a note on the kitchen island, as if this were a spontaneous road trip and not a silent escape from a house that no longer felt like mine. We didn't go to New Hampshire. Instead, I drove north on old state roads, avoiding interstates and anything with a toll booth or traffic camera. I kept my phone off. Used a prepaid flip I'd bought months ago on impulse, back when I still thought emergency planning was a leftover trauma from childhood. It was nearly dusk when I pulled into a gas station on the edge of a town I didn't recognize. The sky had that rust-red tint that makes everything feel thinner, more breakable. Avery said she had to use the restroom, so I parked near the pump and handed her the bathroom key attached to a giant wooden paddle. She trotted off without complaint. I got out to fill the tank. That's when he appeared, quiet, nondescript, just another guy at the pump beside mine. Khakis, navy windbreaker, hands in pockets. He looked like someone's dad, someone's coworker. But when he stepped toward me, there was something off. Not threatening, just alert. He bumped my shoulder gently as he passed. "Smart move," he murmured without looking at me. "Keep moving. You're not alone." I froze. "Excuse me?" But he was already back at his car, slipping behind the wheel of a dusty blue sedan with tinted plates. No logo, no bumper sticker, no identifying anything. He pulled away like nothing had happened. Avery returned, dragging the paddle key behind her. "There was no soap," she said seriously. I crouched, brushing a smudge of dirt off her cheek. "That's okay, baby. Let's just get back on the road." Inside the car, I turned my phone back on for a moment, just long enough to check email. A new one had come through, sent only minutes before. No subject line, from Ethan's usual address. It wasn't a message. It was a booking confirmation. Delta Airlines, 1 seat. Boston to Sao Paulo, under my name. Departing tomorrow at 6:35 a.m. I hadn't made that booking. I hadn't even opened my browser. My chest tightened. Was it a threat? A setup? Or worse, was Ethan planning to make me disappear on paper? Avery buckled herself in and handed me her llama. "He didn't look scary," she said out of nowhere. I blinked. "Who didn't?" "The man who bumped into you, but he had the same eyes as Daddy does when he's thinking real hard." I looked at her in the mirror. "You saw that?" She nodded. "I always see more than you think." I didn't respond. Just turned the key in the ignition and pulled back onto the road. 20 minutes later, we crossed into Vermont. The cabin my mother left me after she passed away was tucked between 2 narrow lakes, hidden from the main road by a stand of tall pine and a gravel drive most people missed entirely. I hadn't been back since Avery was a toddler. Ethan had never liked the place, called it unwired, as if that were a curse. That's exactly why I chose it. By the time we arrived, the sky had turned navy and full of stars. I unlocked the door with the old skeleton key, the hinges groaning like they remembered me. Inside, it smelled like old cedar and long dead summers. The furniture hadn't changed. The photos on the mantel still showed a life that ended with my mother's last breath. I turned on 1 lamp, then 2. Avery dropped her bag in the same spot I used to as a kid. "Are we staying here forever?" she asked, spinning in a slow circle. No, I said, but long enough. But I didn't sleep much that night. Avery clung to her stuffed llama, curled beside me in the cabin's smaller bed, her breathing even. But I lay awake, listening for creaks that didn't belong, watching shadows crawl across the wooden ceiling. Just after sunrise, I slipped out of bed and into the kitchen. The air was cold, still smelling of dust and old cedar. As the coffee maker sputtered to life, I opened one of the storage boxes my mother had left in the corner cabinet. Inside, photo albums, tax papers, mismatched mugs, and near the bottom, a photo I'd never seen. Ethan stood smiling, his arm slung casually around a woman I didn't recognize. Not a client, not a friend. Something about the tilt of their bodies said familiarity, comfort. Behind them, signage that read Marion Street Market. That was 3 towns over. The timestamp was from 2 weeks ago, when he was supposedly in Maine. I stared at it for a long time. This wasn't just another lie. This was a controlled narrative, carefully curated. The forgotten watch, the camera gap, the false location. I turned on the prepaid phone. A new voicemail blinked. Ethan's voice, low and measured. Emerson, I know you're upset, but this isn't what you think. Come home. We'll talk. We'll fix it. No apology, no questions, just calm control, like always. I deleted the message, but a second buzz followed. A text from Stacy. Please call me. I didn't know. You were right. I didn't get to respond, because that's when someone knocked, soft, intentional. I froze, peered through the curtain. A man stood at the door, mid-40s, average build, blue windbreaker. The man from the gas station. The blue sedan was parked at the edge of the gravel, half hidden behind the trees. I opened the door just a crack, fireplace poker behind my back. Who are you? I asked. Daniel Reeves, he said. I used to work with Ethan, and I think you and your daughter are in danger. I studied his face. No panic, no threats, just quiet urgency. How did you find us? Your husband mentioned this place once. I figured it was worth trying. I didn't trust him, but I trusted the pattern I couldn't ignore even less. Wait, I said, closing the door. Avery was still asleep. I came back, let him in, poker still in hand. Daniel stepped carefully inside and sat at the table only when I nodded. Then he said the sentence that turned suspicion into certainty. Your husband isn't who you think. Apex trade? It's a front. Smuggling, art, watches, high-end counterfeits. Ethan's been deep in it for years. I didn't answer. I just pulled Ethan's laptop from my bag and opened the folder marked Orion K3. Daniel's face shifted. Recognition? Confirmation. You didn't just marry into a lie, he said. You married into the operation. Daniel didn't waste time. There's a safe deposit box under your name, he said. Ethan forged your signature to lease it last year. That's where some of the hard assets are. Documents, cash, backups. He used you as a firewall. If anything went south, the blame would land on you first. I felt cold, even though the room was warm from morning sun. How do you know all this? I used to work logistics for Apex, until I realized what was actually moving inside those crates. He leaned forward, voice low. I walked away. Ethan didn't. He reached into his coat slowly and pulled out a flash drive, placing it on the table like it might detonate. I pulled this off one of his burner phones last week. He's more exposed than he thinks, but so are you. I stared at the flash drive. Black. Unlabeled. Plain. What's on it? Shipping manifests, wire transfers, and surveillance. Some of it is of your daughter. My breath caught. You're saying someone's been following us? Daniel nodded. It's how they keep control, through fear. Ethan knew. He didn't stop it. He let it happen. I reached for the flash drive but stopped halfway. Why give this to me? Because if you hand this to the right people, you walk away clean. If you wait too long, you don't walk away at all. My instincts screamed not to trust him, but every part of my life that had once felt real was now suspect. My husband, my best friend, my home. I took the flash drive and slipped it into my bag. You need a federal contact, Daniel added. Someone outside local law enforcement. I know a guy, Detective Nolan Park. He's clean, he's quiet. He's already circling Ethan. I can arrange a meeting. Avery's voice broke the silence. Mommy? I turned. She stood in the doorway, eyes wide, hair tangled from sleep. She looked at Daniel. Are you one of the good guys? He hesitated. I try to be. Avery stepped closer, holding her llama tight. I heard Daddy on the phone once. He said, we were a liability. She looked at me. I thought it meant me. My heart cracked. I crossed the room and pulled her into my arms. No, sweetheart, never you. But the truth was, I didn't know what Ethan had meant, and we met Detective Nolan Park at a roadside diner 2 counties over. He didn't waste time with small talk. You're not a suspect, he said plainly, but your name's on enough paperwork to raise flags. If this goes public before we're ready, you could be indicted alongside him. I slid the flash drive across the table. I didn't know. Nolan nodded. This helps, but I need more. His voice, his words, a traceable conversation. You want me to call him? Yes. Get him to admit something, anything. That night, in a plain hotel room, I called Ethan. My hands were shaking as the phone rang. He answered like nothing had changed. Emerson, he said softly, you're okay. I talked to someone, I whispered, about Apex, about the documents with my name. I need to know the truth. A pause, then. You don't understand what's happening, but I can fix this. Meet me. I'll explain. He sent an address, a storage facility outside Burlington, Unit 109. A gate code. I agreed. But when we got there, Ethan wasn't waiting. The unit door was already cracked open. No cameras nearby, no motion lights. Inside, file boxes, a half-open safe, and a metal shelf stacked with envelopes. I scanned the labels, shipping manifests, transaction logs, and a manila folder with our names on it. I opened it. Inside was a photo of me and Avery at the park, taken from a distance. Not by Ethan, by someone else. Detective Park stood beside me, eyes narrowed. This wasn't just a smuggling ring. No, I said slowly, heart pounding. It was surveillance, targeted. Ethan wasn't running from the law. He was running from whoever was behind that lens. And suddenly, I realized, he might have been trying to protect us in the only twisted way he knew how. That night, back at the hotel, Avery fell asleep with her hand wrapped around mine. Her breathing was soft, steady. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The photo from the storage unit burned into my memory. Someone had been following us long before I knew anything was wrong. My burner phone buzzed at 1:12 a.m., a number I didn't recognize. I answered anyway. Emerson. Ethan's voice was rough, quieter now. You saw it, didn't you? The storage unit? The surveillance? Yeah, I saw it. I was never supposed to care about you, he said. You were a name, a target. Silence stretched between us. But then Avery was born, he continued, and I couldn't keep the job clean anymore. I told them to stop watching you. I told them. His voice cracked. They didn't listen. I pressed the phone closer. Who are they, Ethan? You'll never see them, that's the point. But they see everything. He paused. I left the watch, he said, because it has a tracker. One you don't know about. I had to know you'd leave the house before they came. I sat upright in the bed, blood rushing to my ears. You were trying to protect us. I couldn't protect you from me, he said, but I could buy you time. The line went dead. I sat in the dark, clutching the phone, the weight of the watch still in my purse. Not a mistake, a message. And maybe, just maybe, a warning. 3 months later, it was over. Ethan took a plea deal, 5 years. Enough to protect Avery and me, not enough to undo everything. I sold the house and the cabin. We moved to a coastal town where no one knew our names. I started fresh at a legal aid office, quiet work that let me sleep at night. The watch he left behind? It stays locked away, not for sentiment, for memory, for warning. Sometimes Avery asks, was Daddy a good man? I don't answer right away. Because the truth is complicated. He was the reason we ran, and maybe the reason we're still here. She saved us. Her voice in the kitchen. Her trust in something she couldn't name. I've learned to listen better now. To her, to myself, to silence that doesn't feel safe. Because the next time the world shifts at 4:17 a.m., I won't need to be told. I'll already be gone.